X.
City Plus. Hello and welcome to What Next? I'm Gemma Slingo.
And I'm Catherine Kennedy.
And today we're here with Colin Porlezza, the principal investigator of the DMINR project, a scheme which specialises in artificial intelligence in the media.
Thank you for joining us, Colin. We wanted to kick off today by talking a bit about artificial intelligence and journalism. So, would you say AI is going to have a big impact on journalism in the next few years?
Yeah, well, first of all, hello everyone, and thanks for having me here. I definitely think so, yeah, I would agree. When it comes to the latest studies or the trends and predictions on the future of journalism and on the future of the newsrooms, artificial intelligence and also machine learning pretty much always play a central role. So, for instance, the 2019 trends and predictions from the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism mentioned the use of artificial intelligence as one of the core trends when it comes to the future of news and of journalism. And they specifically mentioned three different areas. The first of these three areas is personalization. So when it comes to the opportunity for news users to personalize their information, and it offers the possibility to users to tailor the news offers to their personal tastes and personal interests. But coming back to the future trends, I think the second area, and which is even more important for journalism, is automatization, which could also be called robo-journalism.
And how has that manifested itself?
The Guardian Australia recently published an article that was completely written by an artificial intelligence tool on political party funding, if I remember well. I think the third area where there will be a strong use or increase in the use of artificial intelligence is exactly what we are working on. So in providing tools for journalists to sort of manage the information overload that they're currently going through, and in order to be able to sift also through a lot of information. So I would say definitely yes. It is a tool and it is a technique that we will see far more often in the future of journalism.
And do you think as the technologies take off a bit more, and you'd mentioned already the automated journalism being used to write the reports, do you think that is going to be a threat to journalists and their jobs in the future, or how does that kind of play out on down the line?
That's actually a very good question. So if you look at how especially publishers are discussing about this topic, they pretty much every single time when the topic of artificial intelligence or automated journalism pops up, they guarantee that this will not have an impact on journalists or on the jobs of journalists. So they will always tell you that this is a big opportunity for journalists because it frees up time. So journalists have much more time to dedicate to investigative journalism, to more interesting topics, rather than to work on the latest financial report of organizations. However, although artificial intelligence at the moment might not replace journalists' jobs, it nevertheless can have an impact on journalism at large. Okay, so the introduction of automated journalism, although it might not replace journalists nowadays, has nevertheless an impact on how journalism is perceived within society. What does it mean if partially journalism gets replaced by robots or artificial intelligence? How do citizens, how the users will perceive journalism in the future if they know that part of journalists' work can now be carried out by artificial intelligence or by robots. But what comes out of research, and that's the interesting part, is that articles written by robots or by artificial intelligence tools are perceived to be slightly more objective than those articles written by humans.
Speaking as a young journalist, it seems that AI could replace some of the lower level stuff which you might be doing if you went in as like a junior sub-editor or whatever, and it seems to pose something of a risk to people wanting to get into the profession. Do you think that is true?
I think there are two different ways of seeing this problem. First of all, I would agree with your perspective that if you're a trainee or if you're an intern coming into a news organization, or if you are an early career journalist, usually you start with writing exactly these kind of easy articles where you have to rewrite, the earnings reports of business organizations. And I think that in the future, or even now, these slightly more boring tasks will be carried out by artificial intelligence. So it might be more difficult to get into the newsroom. However, you could also see this as an opportunity for news organizations to start to train young journalists, not by using them as a cheap workforce, but by training them on more relevant types of journalism.
And turning then to your DMINR project, which obviously uses AI, could you tell us a bit about what you're working on?
So one of the main principles and goals is really to have just one place where journalists can go to have access to many different databases. That's the first step. The second step of the tool would then be to allow journalists, based on their requests and based on their interests, to filter the information on the grounds of its relevance. And that's where the AI, the artificial intelligence, comes in. I would say it is a tool, it can be a tool for verification.
That sounds really useful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And you can join us next time for a podcast on podcasts.
X
City Plus.